Hello, hello, and welcome to More to the Story with Molly White. I'm so glad you joined me again today. We have another special guest, another great guest on, a man that I've known in the pro life world for many, many years, and I can't wait to for our discussion this afternoon. And before we get started with that, I just want to give a shout out to our show sponsor, Dr. Steve Hotze with the Hotze Health and Wellness Center in Katy, Texas. If you want to stay healthy and stay strong, then I would encourage you to contact the Hotze Health and Wellness Center. And if you want to sponsor the show, hey, we would love to have you as a sponsor or even as a donor to the show. It just really helps us to try to be as professional as possible, to have the equipment we need, the professionals we need to get this show out there. So we would love for your donation or for your sponsorship. And hey, we would appreciate it if you would like the show on whatever streaming platform you're watching it on, to comment and to share it with your friends. So we invite you to do that and hope you do so. And now I'd like to introduce my wonderful co-host, Mary Browning. And Mary, would you just come in and say hello to everyone?
Hello, hello. Thank you, Molly. I'm so glad to be on the show with you today. We're excited for our guest, and we will mention that our topic is going to touch on abortion. We're not going to go into the details about that, but if you do find yourself having an emotional reaction to any of the discussion, we want you to know that there is hope and healing available. You can call the H3 helpline, or you can log on to operationoutcry.org, and there will be healing resources for you at either one of those locations. Thank you, Molly.
Well, thank you, Mary. And yes, so I have known our guest for many years. He is a man that I admire and respect. His name is John Pichata. He is from Waco, Texas. I used to live in Belton, so I wasn't that far from Waco. I used to go to Waco to do sidewalk counseling outside the Planned Parenthood clinic there. And then I met John and I started attending some of his pro-life Sundays and speaking at these groups. And I just want to bring John in. And as I'm bringing you in, John, I just want to continue telling our viewers about the work that you've done in Waco. Originally, you started Pro-Life Waco, and you had an outreach, for pregnant women. And of course, you wanted to expose the evil works of the abortion industry there in Waco. You also didn't you put on these educational events during certain times of the year when Planned Parenthood was um, operating camps for girls or something like that?
We challenged some of their educational events.
A challenge. That would be
We
the good word.
greeted them at
Yeah.
the events.
Yeah, and educated the public on really what they were indoctrinating young children, and then you got it. You found out the connection between the Girl Scouts and Planned Parenthood, and you were on national television. You've been on the news everywhere because of that, exposing the connection that Planned Parenthood had with the Girl Scouts. And that led to cookie boycott and got you a lot of national coverage, but it was informational. I mean, parents probably didn't even know this connection. And then here recently, you've been real involved in educating Wacoans about the CVS pharmacy distributing the abortion drugs, and were instrumental in even getting that the pharmacy to close down in Waco. And now,
One down, one
yep,
down.
one down and one to go. And I was even there at one of your events
Oh, yeah.
and spoke there. And John is an activist. I mean, he is an activist, and he is not going to stay silent when it comes to the shedding of innocent blood and protecting vulnerable pregnant women. And now John has a organization that he's kicking off, or been involved with. It's the pro-life community outreach. Pro-life on the
Pro-life,
public
no,
square.
pro-life in the public
Pro-life
square.
on the public square. Sorry
Right.
about that.
So we're going to
And
all have to get familiar with this name.
that's right. Pro-life on the public square. So let's talk
Mm.
about that, John. Tell our viewers and our listeners what pro-life on the public square is.
Well, before I say what pro-life in the public square is, I go back to Pro-Life Waco. And Pro-Life Waco is our, as you know, our local. And first, Molly, thank you so much for all you've done over the years, and your friendship and your alliance with our ministry, and including coming up and celebrating the closing of a CVS pharmacy. You've been such a good friend and such a blessing to multitudes. So God
Thank
bless you.
Thank you.
And what we've done, really, we haven't called it that, but locally was the public square outreach. We want to be, we were at the abortion clinic, sure we were, but we're at other venues as well with Life Chain, with being out at the Heart of Texas Fair, with the fair booth, over on the overpass outreach. And so we're meeting the public broadly. And so that's what we've done at Pro-Life Waco, and we hit a kind of a turn in the road where we'd like to see more public square outreach across the country,
Yes.
and particularly right now with CVS and Walgreens. In 6 states, six blue states have already started distributing filling prescriptions for the abortion pill. And I think, oh gosh, we've got to rise up against this.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we've done at this point is, I don't think we're rising up fast enough. And so Pro-Life Waco is going to start operating under 2 names. We're going to continue our local stuff. One activity every week. A week doesn't buy. We're not in the public square.
That's
Or
right.
24/7 with our billboards and yard signs. But we want to encourage and equip across the country people that will join this challenge to CVS and Walgreens, whether they're whether they're filling prescriptions in your state or not. We're Americans. And so let me give a short definition. Okay, everybody, take out your pencil and we'll take this
He's a
down.
former college professor, by the way.
Yes, yes. And there will be a quiz on it
Okay,
as well.
so we can learn. I got my pencil.
Public square outreach is engaging the public, our community, broadly is very important to change hearts and minds and change public sentiment. I use that. It's kind of like public opinion, but kind of have a little different flavor to it. To change public sentiments, so that hearts, minds, souls, and votes are changing to advance our movement. And we need more of that. I think we're weak in this area. So that's what the public square outreach is to try to think about. We can't just focus on interacting with pro-lifers. Now you got to do that. You got to have events that are preaching to the choir. We used to do that with the Second Sunday event, preaching to the choir. But that was a launch to get out there with the public.
Right.
Okay, go to the convention center of Waco when they have Nobody's Fool Sex Ed event, and be there to challenge that. And so what we're going to do now, we're going to operate 2 subdivisions in our nonprofit. We're going to do our local stuff, but at the national level, we're going to try to reach out to other organizations and say, could you do a little bit more in public square outreach? What are you doing? And I'm not saying they're not doing anything. Gosh, I visited in Tennessee recently, and in Dixon, Tennessee, they got a great organization, and they've got a billboard right by the high school. But that's public square outreach.
Yeah.
when you have that billboard. So what we want is more of us, more of that. And what I say about our situation in local outreach, that the sidewalk counts, there's different branches. There's sidewalk counseling, there's pregnancy cares, there's prayer vigils, and there's public square outreach. And those other branches have really thrived. They're doing great.
Mhm.
I mean, sidewalk counseling is doing great, and pregnancy care is doing great, and prayer vigils are doing great. And public square outreach is not doing great
Mhm.
across the country. I mean, there's organizations that do it. Mark Harrington in Ohio, and the Scheidlers, of course, and there's some local organizations that are quite active and do quite well. But we want to promote it, and we want more. We want the public square outreach branch of the pro-life tree. We want it to be strong and make a big contribution to really. We've hit some hard times this last couple of years and these last months, especially at elections. And
Mhm.
I think another phrase that I use a lot is the mushy middle.
Right. Right.
In the public sentiment out there, there's the people that are committed pro-life. There's our ardent opponents pro-abortion, and the biggest group is the mushy middle.
A huge group too. It's a very large group,
And
isn't it?
see that I think that's post Dobbs, that's where we're weak.
Mhm.
Is we had not penetrated the public square, and we were able to do pretty well with our influence in the legislature without that penetration. But when the other side started winning these statewide ballot issues, whoa, that's a wake-up call.
Mhm.
And I'm not one to put on my rose-colored glasses and say, "Oh, it's okay, it's okay." It's not okay. We've got to do much better. And I think everybody in any ministry they have, even for the national ministries, I think we all need to think about how do we penetrate more broadly? How do we, whatever we're doing, how do we penetrate into the public square? And for example, 40 Days for Life is doing this. Traditionally, most of their prayer vigils have been at abortion centers. Well, this last year, they've added a new twist to it. They have a program where you can do your 40 Days for Life prayer vigil at a CVS or Walgreens drugstore. Well,
Wow.
that's great. That's great. So
Good.
we want, and I want, our board wants, I had to talk the board into this. They were a little stubborn at times and twist some arms, but I got my way in the end. And, but we want to think of people to think about that broad spectrum of the pro-life, the strong people in the other way, and the mushy middle. And whatever we're doing, whatever you're doing on your show, well, is there any way you could kind of get a little more into the public square and impact and outreach? We've got to penetrate. We have got to penetrate.
That's exactly, and that just brings up to me, John. It's so important, and that's exactly why we created this show. Is how do we get out there that voice? That abortion hurts women, but it is to reach um, and educate those who, like you said, are the mushy middle. These are our fellow Americans that are either apathetic about the abortion issue, or they don't know much about it, so they don't think about it. It doesn't bother them. They haven't been impacted by it, and it's really those are the folks that you and myself and Mary want to reach and get them activated, because once you get educated on this issue, once you see how abortion is killing children, hurting women and men and their families, you can't sit back and be still and be quiet anymore. You've got to do something. And with John's group, he's got the resources to help you. I'm thinking of our little town where I live. We did the life chain, and very little turnout. But I'm thinking there's a whole lot more that we can be doing on a daily basis or weekly basis or monthly basis, even in small towns, because small town girls, small town young
Absolutely. Yeah.
women, small town women still get pregnant and still end up in an abortion clinic if they're not,
Exactly.
if they don't have other resources and don't have information.
In our announcement of pro-life in the public square, one of our support campaigns is to give 9 free yard signs and 100 free chemical abortion flyers to any group that will educate, will do public square outreach out of Walgreens. And we're not talking about one time.
Yeah.
We are not talking about one time. This has got to be continuous.
Right.
We have got once a month. It doesn't need to be every day. It doesn't need to be every week. But if it's at least once a month, and down in Abilene they're doing it twice a month, but that will just keep it. It's a thing. The people in your community are seeing it every month. The people in managing the store and the employees and the customers, they know that's coming. Every month it's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have had victories in challenging the business enablers of abortion.
Yes,
we have. One of the Girl Scouts.
Yeah.
But it has to be something, not we're mad, we don't like what you do, goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not going to do it. We're mad, we don't like what you do, and we're going to be challenging you continuously. And even if you don't change, we're still going to stand up against you, and we're going to get an opportunity to tell our public.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the phrases I like to use, that we need our neighbors to know that they have neighbors who deeply care about the shedding of innocent blood, and that they should care too.
Yeah.
And for small cities, in our announcement, we have a program for small. I'm thinking of small cities. What could small cities do? I call them mini billboards. A lot of people call them yard signs. But I call them mini billboards.
I've got some mini billboards hanging on my fence.
Okay. And they're very powerful. And they're very powerful for the churches. So what could a small community do? Most small communities have churches. Hey, Pro-Life Waco is offering you some really good billboards. I mean, yard signs. Mini billboards. Mini billboards, because we used so many that didn't work in the past. So now, but we got these that they do work. And any group can have from 20 to 100 yard signs from us shipped to your front door, no cost, and $5 a yard sign. And so you would pay us $5 a yard sign, and we would pay the bill for the yard sign, and it's going to be more than $5 a yard sign. But we have financial support, and we have commitment, and we have fire in our belly, and so we're going to do it.
Amen.
And so that's a program that we have right now. And so for you and for the listening audience, we're all ears. What could we do in the future? What could we do to equip and encourage across the country people to say, what can we do? I mean, that's a big question that we got to ask.
John,
yes, go ahead.
You're in Waco. I'm in Missouri. In order for me to tap into this, would I just go onto Pro-Life in the public square and say, how can I get, let's say, 15 yard signs? How can I get some chemical abortion? How can I?
We're still going to stick with the old email address of Pro-Life Waco at gmail.com. That's me.
So that's John at Pro-Life Waco.
Yeah, I want to get in on the program.
Yeah.
Send me an email.
I want some signs too.
I'll ask you you need to tell me, and then we need to talk about it. I want that we're not giving these to store in your garage.
Right.
I want to.
I'm thinking about putting them around, even around election polling locations. You got all your candidate signs.
Right.
Why not?
I'm not going to control what you do with these, and I'm not going to say, you got to use our signs, and you can't use any better. You can use any signs you want to use, but I'm going to give you some signs that are free. I call it a quick start.
$5 per
quick start pack. So you can get my package delivered to your door, and you're ready to rumble.
Do you have any of your signs behind you or anywhere we can see them?
I
what do they? What? Give us some examples.
no, very simple signs, no abortion pills for killing babies. Or no pills.
No
No
pills that
pills for
kill.
no pills for killing babies.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and change your RX, change your
Ah,
prescription, boycott,
mm,
and then the signs are front and back, and one side says CVS and the other side says Walgreens.
mm,
And so you can use it
Oh,
whichever side that you choose. You know, one side of the sign is really the one that they see, and then we can communicate. And I've got a flyer that I could give you a link to when you communicate to prolifewaco@gmail.com. Then I can say, okay, here's a PDF of the whole offer. And
okay.
there's an expectation that you'll do this at least 4 times. It's not a contract, but this is the expectation that I have. And I think if you do it, you want to you keep doing it. Yeah, and create, to create this a national group. I set a goal I am setting a goal in 2025. I want 100 cities to be doing this. And if we have 100 cities to do this, I believe we're going to win.
And you're talking across the country. You're
Across
not
the country.
talking about,
Yeah.
not limited to Texas, not
Right.
limited to Waco. We're talking about across the country. I just want to
Across
make
the
sure our
Texas,
listeners
Missouri are
get
welcome.
that.
No, across the country, Alaska. And
And
look,
what an
here's
what an easy thing to do, to put a sign in your yard or to put a
Mhm.
sign at your church. I
Oh,
mean,
then that's the
that
yard sign thing.
alone is
That is so
easy.
easy. But
You
then
know,
see,
Yeah.
what I'm hoping is that people, and I'm thinking we did a pretty good job with public square outreach in Waco.
we did.
Well, we just started, we did this, and then maybe we'll add this, and this worked well, and this didn't work well. And then it comes to the point where right now we have 5 events that happen every month.
Mm, wow.
And so, and we got the people that I'm getting a lot of help. I'm not as young as I was when I first met you, Molly, and but I'm getting a lot of help from people that are pitching in, and captains of different outreach events. We're going to be on the overpass near Chili's restaurant
On
in Waco
I-35, yeah.
tomorrow evening.
Mhm,
Come
mhm.
out 5:30, whoever. If you're in Temple, drive up there and join us.
Yeah.
And but who, it's public square outreach. Who's going underneath that overpass? They're all pro-lifers? Are they all anti-lifers?
Yeah.
Is the mushy middle there? They're all there.
Mhm.
They're
Right.
all there.
By the
We're
thousands.
We're
By
hitting
the
yes,
thousands.
yes, and you're having an impact on thousands. So we have to be more in the public discourse, public sight. Another thing I like to say about public square outreach and what we do in Waco, we want in Waco it to be impossible for someone to live in Waco for 10 days without seeing a pro-life message.
Mm, yeah.
And I think with our yard signs, with our billboards, we have 8 billboards, junior billboards across the city, and with our 5 events, I think just about most people are going to see a pro-life
They're gonna
message
see.
in
I
That's
mean,
Waco.
beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah. And
it's the
so
consistency. It's the consistency too
the
that
consistency.
drives this thing home. And you've been faithfully consistent for over 20
Mm.
years in doing this, pushing over 20 years, probably
You know,
25.
After
But
Dobbs, there was an organization that developed on the other side. They were very complimentary to us, and they named their organization Pro-Choice Waco. And they challenged us and came out a few times, and they even tried to get a bill to make our police not enforce the laws passed in the city council. And we brought 300 people to the city council meeting, and that was never heard of again.
wow.
But in the article recently, there was an article in the paper, and there was a person from the other side, and she talked about that organization of Pro-Choice Waco when it existed in the past. And it doesn't exist in the future. So and broadly in the pro-life movement, that for our movement, that you have to admire the persistency. That we're there. We're not going away. We'll never go away.
Yeah.
Mm,
But the other side, they don't have that persistency.
no.
I mean, they're fighting for death. how
Especially
can
when they don't get the public support like Pro-Life Waco does or any pro-life group
well,
does,
and we,
you know.
you know, we have our supporters. I've been blessed. I'm openly raising money for our new venture, but it became very, very difficult for me to raise money for just our thing of the past because I already had enough. I had donors on board that it was kind of nice, that we have money coming in and we don't spend a huge amount of money and we pay no salaries. Darn it, made a mistake with that at the outset. I should have got a salary, but I didn't. Um, but so it doesn't take a whole lot of money to do what we're doing. But I'm hoping that many thousands of dollars can be funneled through pro-life in the public square to promote outreach across America.
Amen.
That's what I'm happy to do.
We're hoping for
And
that
that we'll
too.
get the fire in our belly, like the civil rights movement back in the 1960, in Greensboro, North Carolina. 4 college students decided they would go downtown Greensboro, North Carolina. There's a Woolworth department store. There's a segregated lunch counter, and they would take seats at the segregated lunch counter.
Mm.
And they did that. It was a tornado across the country.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty soon there were 300 people outside of the Walgreens store, and it was happening in time and time and time again in other cities spreading across the South. And that was in February that happened. In July, the president of Woolworths announced there would be no more segregated lunch counters.
Awesome.
So I mean, we are more powerful. We are much more influential than we think we are.
That's
We
right.
think, oh, well,
That's
what? Yeah,
good.
can I ask that question? Well, what good would it do, John? What good would it do? One of the things I have on my website is a tab for victories, and I don't go through all of the victories, but I go through 5 of them, and where we challenged and we won. And if you challenge and you don't get the capitulation, you still win
Mhm.
because you're out saying you care.
Yeah.
We've protested Bank of America for
Yeah.
about 6 years.
Yeah.
And people say, what are you doing, John? Well, it's a good intersection. There's a Bank of America there. I can't say no to this opportunity. And so once a month, we were at Bank of America, and their offending thing was to give a matching grant program for donations.
To
Well, to Planned Parenthood, yeah.
Mhm.
But the
Okay.
offending thing
All
of
right.
Walgreens and CVS is they are entering the abortion industry.
right.
They are
By
participating in the
distributing
killing.
and filling these pills, yeah.
So what we
And
did,
they're contributing to hurting women. I mean, they're responsible for
absolutely. And
bloodshed.
so
They're responsible for hurting the mothers and the
I'll
fathers.
cover all the bases. There's one base I haven't covered. At CVS and Walgreens, that flyer that we produced, I didn't realize it when we started. I was thinking, we're protesting CVS and Walgreens. And I realized there's a tremendous opportunity for chemical abortion education.
Yeah.
And so we're distributing flyers at when we're out there. One of my favorite photos of it is one of our foot soldiers reaching her arm up to a person in a big old truck to hand him a flyer. Okay, so we're engaging. We're engaging and we're educating. And 9 out of 10 people, pro-life and not pro-life, they don't know what chemical abortion is.
Right.
And so
Right.
we got so much to do. We got so much to do.
It's
We've
true.
got a lot to do.
We'll try
and
to
let me
do some
tell
of
you,
it.
Pro-Life on the
some of it.
public square has the resources. They have the ideas. I mean, it's going to be so simple for our viewers and our listeners across the country. If you want to do something, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You
That's
can
right.
contact
Right.
Pro-Life on the public square. They're on Facebook. They'll have their new website launched soon, or go to prolifewaco@gmail.com and
Yeah, that email address.
ask for signs or information. What can we do in our community? No matter how small your community is, you can make such a huge impact by being active, by being out there and
Mhm.
educating and even boycotting if you need to. You know, but it's important in John, in the work you've done over the past almost 3 decades, I would imagine.
It's
Um,
close to 30 years.
yeah, has saved so many lives, has educated so many people, including myself, and has motivated so many people that your reward in heaven is going to be huge. And I hope I get to get close enough to you in heaven to see all your rewards when that day comes. But it's simple. John's got the solutions. John has the resources, and we need this outreach, like you said, all across the country. We cannot stop until abortion is unthinkable, like it was back in before Roe and Doe, before the birth control pill, it was
Yeah.
and so it doesn't take a
Right.
whole lot. It just says, just say, yes, Lord, here I am, use me, and contact John.
All
Well,
of us
we're out of
together. All of
time.
us together.
All of
Big
us
impact.
together.
All of
Anything you
us
want to say?
together.
Anything you want to say, Mary? We got to close, but we want to
No, I
thank
just want to
John.
say thank you. Thank you, John, for your years of dedication.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mary.
for your sustained passion. Thank you for your creative ideas, and thank you for launching uh,
Pro-life.
pro-life in the public square
Yeah.
Got it. You got
and
it.
making it.
Amen. And I
Yes,
ditto
thank
that
you.
too. I value your friendship, John, over all these years and everything you've done. And thank you for coming on our program today and educating our listeners and our viewers. And we just want to encourage y'all to get in touch with Pro-Life in the public square and do your part for the cause of life.
Yes.
Thank you for tuning in to More to the Story with Molly White. We look forward to seeing you again next week. God bless you. Bye-bye.